And never forget, the underboss was a towering individual with some, like intimidating features where he just stared at you and go, all right, tell me, who are you? Where are you from? And as I'm staring at him, I'm trying to focus on his eyes, and I'm looking past him, and there's a bloody apron from a butcher. There's a meat cleaver, a bone saw, a fillet knife, and I have 5 recorders on me.
At 4:17 a.m., a joint FBI and DEA task force moves on a single objective: the takedown of Wei Zhen, identified as the central organizer of the Long River Triad, the primary Chinese syndicate running synthetic substances through New York and New Jersey. For 6 months, surveillance from intercepted shipments and coded bank transfers pointed to a seafood warehouse near Canal Street as his command hub and processing site. The order to breach was issued at 4:15, after federal analysts confirmed a live signal from Zhen's encrypted phone inside the structure. The operation is built for precision. 3 entry teams, overlapping timelines, no public exposure. Every agent knows the reason they're here: stop the flow, seize the network, and bring in the man whose name sits at the top of a chain that has already buried hundreds. At 4:18:30, the first door breaks. Hydraulic cutters chew through the lock, metal whining against pressure. Shock grenades roll in. 2 seconds delay. Flash saturating the narrow entry hall. Air pressure spikes. Dust sprays outward like mist. Agents move in 2 columns, 8 meters apart, rifles canted low. Heart rates spike across telemetry. The command feed shows room-by-room clearance in real time, color-coded green as each area turns secure. The first visual of occupants: 4 men asleep on folding cots. They're unarmed, sluggish, hands up. Every signal says the element of surprise worked, but the infrared view from the overhead drone keeps showing deeper warmth under the concrete. Command assumes miscalibration. Calibration is fine. By 4:21 a.m., the outer ring is locked down. Agents with the tactical entry unit stack at the second door on the south wall. The breacher uses an 8-pound ram, 2 hits, and the frame gives. Inside is a corridor lined with storage racks, each crate marked Pacific Imports. Air temperature holds steady at 23 degrees Celsius. Moisture beads on the floor from leaking ice bins. Every detail fits the cover story. The team reports: warehouse clear, no resistance. They don't see the subfloor sensor lights behind the shelving, red pinpricks barely visible through frost. Those sensors are transmitting their movement to a control console 20 meters below. Down there, 2 men in lab coats are watching grainy CCTV, counting seconds until the intruders reach the access hatch. At 4:23 a.m., Agent Torres from the second team signals for thermal verification. He slides a handheld scanner along the ground. A circular zone flashes brighter, heat escaping through seams. The floor shouldn't be that warm. He taps his mic, requests permission to breach subfloor. Command at Post Alpha authorizes. A portable borescope goes in first, a camera on a flexible tube slipping through drilled concrete. What shows up isn't wiring. It's glass flasks, tubing, steam. A lab, still powered, still venting gas. The digital clock on the lab's wall reads 4:23:48. Equipment hums, blue vapor thickening the air. The upper team doesn't yet know they're breathing the same chemicals seeping through vents. Their assumption: empty facility. The truth: 1 minute from ignition. Outside, on the south perimeter, a pair of NYPD liaison officers hold back the first civilian curiosity. 2 delivery drivers slowed by flashing lights. The officers wave them past. 1 van lingers a second too long, then turns east. Inside it, a transmitter pings. At 4:24:10, across the river in Brooklyn, 3 SUVs idle in a parking lot. The transmitter triggers a short-wave burst. Those vehicles belong to the same gang the raid targets. They move out immediately, headlights off. Command doesn't pick up the signal. The frequency sits just below their monitored band. The operation clock keeps running smooth. Everyone believes containment holds. By 4:25, the subfloor breach begins. The cutting torch burns through the concrete ring, sparks arcing into the air. Noise echoes through the hollow chamber. Agent Lin crouches at the edge, peers through the gap. Steam hits her visor. The chamber is larger than expected, maybe 30 meters long. She counts 6 tables, each covered with sealed drums labeled in Mandarin. A small generator hums at the far end. It's supposed to be standard electrical supply. It's not. It's a hydrogen recirculation unit used to power heat exchangers. Lynn doesn't recognize it. She reports unknown power device, still active. Command assumes backup power. They order continued descent. The team ropes down. At 4:26:40, boots hit the floor below. The air is damp. Visibility 5 meters. Chemical odor burns the throat filters. The gas analyzer chirps but reads within safe range. The first camera feed pans right, catching a silhouette disappearing behind machinery. A shadow, maybe a person. Lynn calls out. No response. The next second, a hiss. Valve release from the generator. Pressure drops. The sensors upstairs show minor heat fluctuation. Command notes it, but dismisses it as generator cycling. Lynn moves forward. Hand signal for slow advance. Each step displaces thin vapor swirling at ankle height. Her team doesn't realize the vapor is hydrogen venting from the release line. At 4:27 sharp, an alert pops on the command board. Gas concentration rising. Too late. The overhead team drilling the final vent hole sends down a shower of sparks. The ignition travels like lightning. A dull thud rolls through the ground, then a flash, blue and soundless for half a second, before oxygen catches. The blast throws debris up the stairwell, pressure wave cracking light fixtures. One agent above is slammed against a wall, visor shattering. Command watches the feed cut to static. Radio fills with shouts, orders to pull back collide with requests for medevac. It's still only 4:27:30. 90 seconds from breach to chaos. Outside, the Bell 407 crew reports flame venting through roof seams, height roughly 2 meters. Command orders fire suppression teams forward. At street level, bystanders start recording. Sirens from local units converge within 30 seconds. Through the confusion, a new voice cuts in on encrypted channel. Special Agent Meyer from Cyber Liaison. Satellite intercept just logged movement from Triad-owned vehicles leaving Brooklyn. The assumption flips. The warehouse may be a decoy. Command splits focus, deploying a secondary drone toward the Manhattan Bridge. The tactical ground team has no such bandwidth. They're still extracting wounded through the smoke. Visuals blur with heat shimmer. The generator continues venting. The gas detectors flash critical. At 4:29, the outer units reposition. The east side containment truck, Unit Bravo 3, reverses 30 meters to clear line of fire. Through its rear window, they catch figures running across the alley. 3 men with rifles. Not lab workers. Triad enforcers arriving by foot from the next block. Agents open fire. Muzzle flashes strobe against the wet brick walls. Bullets spark off dumpsters. One suspect falls, the rest scatter. The firefight lasts 20 seconds, leaving the alley carpeted with shell casings. Noise ricochets off glass towers, echoing all the way to Bowery. Command still believes these are stragglers, unaware they mark the start of a counterattack coordinated through the same transmitter van. At 4:30:12, a new radar feed from the 407's FLIR unit detects thermal clusters in adjacent buildings. Command cross-references. False positives, they think. Heat from machinery. But the pattern is human. 24 moving signatures distributed through connected basements. The gang has been nesting across the block. Agents inside are too focused on evacuation to process the data. They hold defensive positions behind overturned crates, pushing casualties toward extraction. Every movement above echoes below. Dust shakes loose from the ceiling, settling on their helmets like ash. Lynn, still below ground, hears faint knocking through pipes. A rhythmic pattern. Deliberate. She calls it in. Command doesn't answer. Their frequency is overloaded with status reports. By 4:32, the Triad vehicles reach the first checkpoint under the bridge. NYPD intercept team moves to block. 2 black SUVs cutting across lanes. The gang convoy swings around, reverses at 60 kilometers per hour. One SUV clips a barrier, spins out, crashes. The others split, one heading south through the tunnel system used for maintenance. The command center reroutes drone surveillance, but loses line of sight due to concrete density. Signals fade. The last clear thermal return shows a 4-seat van descending into a service ramp. The van's occupant count: 2 front, 1 rear. One of them matches the biometric of Wei Zhen, identified leader. Command orders pursuit through ground and air simultaneously. At 4:34, 2 unmarked Bureau sedans peel off from the main convoy to intercept the underground exit at Lafayette. Distance: 900 meters. They coordinate through GPS overlays, engines redlining at 80 kilometers per hour. Overhead, a DHS helicopter takes position at 400 feet, spotlight ready. The city noise rises, sirens, horns, the echo of rotors bouncing between high rises. Inside the tunnel, the fleeing van accelerates, speed increasing to 75. It's scraping the walls, sparks flashing in the rear camera feed. Inside the command post, analysts calculate intersection timing to the second. They think they'll box him in before the curve. They're half right. At 4:35:10, the van exits onto a maintenance platform below an unfinished construction site. It skids sideways, smashes through temporary fencing, and drops half a meter onto dirt. The driver floors it again, heading toward a half-sealed access shaft that links to an abandoned subway line. The 2 Bureau sedans arrive seconds later. The lead car blocks the exit. The second swings wide. Agents step out, weapons raised. Through the dust, headlights flare. The gang vehicle tries to ram through, but the narrow angle jams it. Gunfire bursts, short, sharp. Muzzle flashes inside the tunnel create strobes that disorient both sides. One bullet shatters the van's windshield. The driver slumps. The passenger door bursts open. Wei jumps out, sprinting toward the dark tunnel. At 4:35:52, he disappears from sight. The tunnel's curvature hides him after 10 meters. Agents give chase, boots slapping against damp concrete. Radio calls out coordinates, echo overlapping with panting breath. Overhead, the DHS helo hovers directly above the street grid, its infrared camera tracking the faint body heat below through gaps in the asphalt. Each second translates to 10 meters gained or lost. Down below, Wei reaches a steel maintenance ladder and climbs up fast, shoes slipping. He emerges through a grate onto the construction site. Wind hits him, carrying dust. From above, he's a single white dot moving toward the street. Agents are right behind. At 4:36:30, the first Bureau agent reaches the ladder. Gun drawn, he climbs after him, 3 rungs per second. The helicopter pilot calls position. Target crossing canal toward Mott. Distance 30 meters. Command gives shoot authorization, only if armed threat confirmed. Wei pulls a pistol from his waistband. That's confirmation enough. The agent fires 1 shot. It misses, hits a crane support. Wei turns the corner, crashes into a construction vehicle. The ground-level team cuts him off from the east. Sirens converge again. He's trapped by geometry now. Steel, concrete, and the ring of vehicles. Physics replaces choice. At 4:37:02, he stops running, throws the pistol aside, drops to his knees. Agents move in, shouting commands over overlapping sirens, his pulse still visible on thermal. He's cuffed within 20 seconds. The helicopter reports, target secure. The command feed finally stabilizes. Above ground, dawn light starts to creep between buildings, tinting the street gray-blue. Operation time: 20 minutes, 45 seconds from breach to capture. Command begins damage assessment. They still don't realize the lab below has already destroyed its own core memory drives. At 4:40, fire teams enter the warehouse remains. Water cannons hiss, steam rising in dense plumes. Temperature sensors inside show gradual drop from 160 degrees to 80. Under debris, they find smashed flasks, melted tubing, and traces of synthetic precursors, methamphetamine base, fentanyl derivatives, unidentified compounds. The air smells of acid. Robots from Hazmat Unit 2 crawl in on treads, scanning barcodes on charred barrels. Only 3 remain readable. All others have been burned deliberately by the triggered hydrogen system. Command starts piecing the pattern. The lab's destruction was automated, pre-scripted to trigger if ambient heat sensors exceeded 30 degrees. The spark from the drill had guaranteed it. At 4:44, Lynn is pulled from the lower level with minor burns and smoke exposure. She's conscious, disoriented. Her voice recorder survived, capturing the moments before ignition. Forensics will later reconstruct the sound waveform to calculate the precise gas concentration that caused detonation. The number will be 4.8% hydrogen by volume, the threshold for explosion. The warehouse is sealed as a crime scene. News of the arrest begins to reach local feeds, but the official brief won't be released until evening. For now, the site looks like any other industrial accident: steam, rubble, cordons. At 4:50, evidence technicians begin cataloging the upper storage areas. They count 230 rifles, mostly unregistered imports, plus 15 machine pistols and 40 crates of ammunition. Each weapon is tagged, serial logged, placed into evidence vans. Among the debris, agents find 2 servers encased in fireproof steel. Those become the priority. A mobile digital lab is parked curbside. Specialists begin data extraction immediately. Through filtered headphones, they hear faint hums from internal fans still spinning. The drives are intact. It's a small win in a field of loss. They don't know yet that data will reveal the larger network stretching into Jersey and Connecticut. At 4:58, the command board shows primary objective complete. But the post-mission chatter is fragmented. Audio from the destroyed sublevel is still being reconstructed. Environmental sensors near the site continue to fluctuate, residual gas venting through cracks. The sky turns lighter. Commuters begin filling nearby streets. The tactical teams begin withdrawal, replaced by crime scene units and FBI technical analysts. The operations footage is archived in 4 data blocks, totaling 7.3 terabytes. In the debrief room, commanders replay the early moments. They see the clean entry, the confident posture, the clockwork timing. Every movement looked correct, every assumption logical. Yet the lab was gone before they knew what it was. By 5:15, the captured gang members are loaded into armored transport. Wei sits cuffed between 2 agents, his expression blank, eyes on the window. The convoy moves north at 30 kilometers per hour toward the federal holding facility in Queens. A helicopter shadows them overhead at 400 feet, thermal sensors locked. Traffic lights change automatically under NYPD control to clear the route. The chain of custody is flawless. In the command post, analysts continue decrypting the servers. They find schematics, payment logs, network topologies connecting multiple shell companies. The deeper they go, the more they realize the warehouse wasn't the center. It was one node among many. The main system lives elsewhere. At 5:30, while dawn traffic thickens, an analyst at Cyber Liaison isolates a file dated 3 days prior. It lists shipments to a location in Newark, time-stamped at night hours, matching the current raid. The implication is immediate. The Triad anticipated the breach. Their leader may be captured, but his network transferred assets beforehand. The realization spreads quietly through the room. No one says failure. They call it continuity risk. Operations shift to monitoring. Drones are redeployed toward the river crossings, watching for trucks fitting the manifest. None appear. Only later will they discover those shipments already passed under cover of legitimate cargo convoys. By 5:45, field teams hand control to investigative units. The scene transitions from dynamic to static. Engineers begin reinforcing the collapsed floor, marking load points with laser scanners. The air still smells metallic. Paperwork litters the command desk, each page time-stamped to the minute. Everything is documented: shots fired, injuries, gas readings, fuel consumption. The precision is undeniable. Yet under that precision lies loss, the missing data, the destroyed formulas, the unknown distribution routes. The operation has concluded by every metric. It still feels incomplete. At 6 o'clock, sunlight reaches the waterfront. The smoke disperses. Street sweepers pass, unaware of what happened 2 hours earlier. Inside the command post, the director signs the closure log. 20 arrested, 3 wounded, 1 critical, 2 tons of chemicals neutralized, quantities recorded, outcomes quantified. But the lab's network signature, a coded signal pattern repeating every 4 minutes, continues broadcasting from an unknown relay. Engineers can't trace it. The frequency hops too fast. They leave it running, recording cycles for later analysis. Outside, agents lean against vehicles, helmets off, breathing exhaust air and steam. At 6:15, transport helicopters begin lifting seized weapons toward a federal depot in Long Island. Each load weighs 1.2 tons. Rotor downwash whips dust across the ruined street. Residents watch from balconies, filming. The convoy below moves north. By 6:20, the last tactical unit leaves. Local police cordon the block. Fire crews douse remaining hotspots, hoses hissing against blackened concrete. The site cools steadily. Data techs remove final servers. The city noise resumes its ordinary rhythm. Traffic, sirens, morning deliveries. The event folds back into the grid. At 6:30, Command compiles the operation summary. Objective Alpha secured. Collateral minimal. Intelligence compromised. The phrasing hides the unease. On the big screen, satellite feed still shows thermal residue from the blast, bright lines fading into the East River. Analysts zoom out, overlaying the wider region. Dozens of red markers light up across the map. Warehouses, storefronts, small offices linked by identical logistics codes. The pattern suggests redundancy. The Triad built backups everywhere. The clean success of the raid now looks smaller, almost cosmetic. No one says that aloud. They simply mark the next coordinates. At 6:45, Lynn walks through the cooling site, mask off, still coughing from smoke. She stops near the crater that once housed the lab. The ground steams faintly. Nearby, a hazmat robot drags a half-melted computer casing out of the debris. She stares at it, then radios the tech team to tag it for analysis. A faint beeping comes from inside. A residual power cell, still active. That's the only surviving device with internal memory. It will take days to extract. She notes the time, 6:45:32, before turning away. Around her, cranes start to move rubble. The operation feels physically over, but the data remains alive under the surface. At 7 o'clock, federal media liaisons arrive to prepare a statement. They measure the perimeter with laser rangefinders, set camera positions, estimate angles. The sun reflects off puddles of chemical runoff, glare blinding enough that lenses flare on every shot. The statement they draft will cite major disruption to transnational organized crime and successful joint operation. It will not mention the explosion, the missing data, or the unknown signal. The paper trail will show total containment. In the debrief room, agents sign off their after-action logs, hands still shaking slightly from adrenaline drop. Monitors replay the breach footage again and again, and the clean choreography before chaos. That's what official history will remember. By 7:15, traffic noise drowns remaining sirens. The convoy carrying Wei reaches the detention center. Cameras catch his transfer, time-stamped 07:17:12. He doesn't speak. Inside the holding corridor, the fluorescent light flickers once as power circuits reconfigure from night grid to day grid. The hum of ventilation is steady. Agents remove his cuffs, replace them with restraint bars. Paperwork slides across steel tables. Outside the building, a line of commuters waits for buses, oblivious. The arrest, for all its spectacle, merges into the background of city motion. But somewhere between network traces and burned evidence, another pulse continues transmitting. The operation clock stops. The signal does not. At 7:30, the final field unit leaves the command post. Computers power down one by one, screens dimming to black. On the far wall, the mission map remains lit for another minute, dozens of red points frozen mid-glow. A single green icon blinks at the captured target location, steady and small. The director stands watching until it times out. Then, silence. For a moment, the hum of the servers is louder than any voice. The raid has ended. What started as control has ended as proof of how little control ever existed. In a city waking to its routine, one building still breathes faint steam into the air. A reminder measured not in victory, but in persistence of heat long after fire.